Good day everyone, Chris Hemsworth here. Australia, with its stunning beaches, vibrant cities, and laid-back lifestyle, often feels like that perfect escape. I mean, who doesn't love a good barbie on the beach or the thrill of the outback? But mate, there's more to this sun-kissed country than meets the eye. We're about to journey beyond the tourist brochures, past the postcard-perfect images, to uncover the heart of the matter. Australia, like any nation, grapples with its own set of challenges, and trust me, some of these truths might surprise you. So buckle up as we delve into the real Australia. Let's get started. Now, we've all seen the images, right? Crystal clear waters, the Sydney Opera House gleaming under a perfect blue sky, kangaroos hopping across the red dirt. It's a powerful image, one that draws millions to Australia's shores every year. But behind this idyllic facade, there's a growing unease. The cost of living is skyrocketing, wages aren't keeping pace, and the gap between the haves and the have-nots is widening. For many Aussies, the dream of owning a home, once a given, is slipping further and further out of reach. Families are being forced to make impossible choices between putting food on the table and keeping a roof over their heads. Essential services are stretched thin, particularly in rural and remote areas, leaving many feeling forgotten and left behind. And let's not forget about the first Australians, the Aboriginal people, who have called this land home for over 60,000 years. Their story is one of resilience in the face of unimaginable hardship, from colonization to ongoing systemic discrimination. This is the reality we need to confront, the one that exists beyond the glossy brochures. Imagine a history spanning back millennia, a deep connection to the land, a culture rich in tradition and storytelling. That's the legacy of Australia's Aboriginal people. But their story is also one marked by pain, dispossession, and the fight for survival. When the British arrived in 1788, they declared Australia terra nullius, meaning empty land, completely disregarding the presence and rights of the Aboriginal people who had called this continent home for countless generations. This act of denial paved the way for colonization, for the systematic displacement of Aboriginal people from their ancestral lands, and the suppression of their culture. Despite the horrors of the past, the spirit of the Aboriginal people remains unbroken. They continue to fight for their rights, for recognition of their history, and for a future where their voices are heard and their culture is respected. Their resilience is an inspiration, and their fight for justice is a call to action for all of us. Australia likes to pride itself on being the lucky country, a place where hard work is rewarded and everyone gets a fair go. But the reality is far more complex. While Australia boasts a strong economy, the benefits aren't trickling down to everyone. The gap between the rich and the poor is widening, and the cost of living is skyrocketing, leaving many struggling to make ends meet. Essential services like healthcare and education are becoming increasingly unaffordable, putting a strain on families and widening the gap further. Families are forced to choose between paying rent or putting food on the table, and the dream of owning a home is becoming increasingly out of reach for many. We need to ask ourselves, what good is a strong economy if it only benefits a select few? It's time to address the root causes of inequality, to create a system that works for everyone, not just those at the top. A fair go for all shouldn't be a privilege, it should be a right. Owning a home, it's a fundamental part of the Australian dream, right? A place to call your own, to raise a family, to build a future. But for a growing number of Australians, that dream is turning into a nightmare. The housing market is on fire, with prices soaring out of reach for many. In cities like Sydney and Melbourne, finding an affordable place to live feels like winning the lottery. And it's not just buying a home that's a problem. Renting is becoming increasingly difficult too. People are being forced to move further and further away from their jobs, their families, their communities, just to find a place they can afford. And for those at the very edge, the risk of homelessness is a terrifying reality. This isn't just a housing crisis, it's a human crisis. Everyone deserves a roof over their head, a place to call home. Let's be honest, Australia has a complicated relationship with alcohol. It's ingrained in our culture, a part of our social fabric. But the truth is, alcohol abuse casts a long shadow over this country. From binge drinking to chronic alcoholism, the consequences are far-reaching, impacting individuals, families, and communities. Alcohol-related violence, both domestic and public, is a serious issue, leaving many living in fear. And for Aboriginal communities, the legacy of trauma and dispossession has fueled a cycle of addiction that's difficult to break. We need to challenge the normalization of excessive drinking, provide better support for those struggling with addiction, and address the underlying social issues that contribute to alcohol abuse. It's time to break the cycle, to create a healthier relationship with alcohol, and to support those who are most vulnerable. Picture this, a town where people live underground, escaping the scorching desert heat. Welcome to Coober, Pedy, a place where resilience is carved into the very earth. Known as the opal capital of the world, Coober Pedy is a testament to human ingenuity and adaptation. Life above ground is harsh, with temperatures soaring above 50 degrees Celsius. So people dug down, creating homes, churches, even hotels, all beneath the surface. It's a unique way of life, one born out of necessity but embraced by the community. Coober Pedy's story is a reminder that even in the harshest environments, humans find a way to adapt and thrive. It's a testament to the human spirit, a reminder that even in the face of adversity, we find a way to not just survive, but to create something truly extraordinary. Australia prides itself on being a multicultural nation, a melting pot of cultures and backgrounds. But beneath the surface, racism and discrimination persist, particularly against Aboriginal Australians. From everyday microaggressions to systemic racism within institutions, Aboriginal people face an uphill battle for equality. The statistics are stark: higher rates of incarceration, lower life expectancy, limited access to education and healthcare. We need to do better, to listen to the voices of Aboriginal Australians, to acknowledge the injustices they face, and to work towards a future free from racism and discrimination. Reconciliation is not just a word, it's a journey we must all embark on, a journey towards healing, understanding, and respect. It's time to dismantle the systems that perpetuate inequality and create a society where everyone feels safe, respected, and valued. Australia has a reputation for its strict border protection policies, particularly its treatment of asylum seekers arriving by boat. The images are stark: men, women, and children held in detention centers, often for years, their dreams of a new life shattered. The conditions in these offshore processing centers, particularly on Nauru Island, have been widely condemned by human rights groups. Reports of abuse, neglect, and despair paint a grim picture of Australia's treatment of some of the world's most vulnerable people. We need to find a more humane and compassionate approach to asylum seekers, one that upholds human rights and offers refuge to those fleeing persecution. Turning our backs on those in need goes against the very values of fairness and compassion that Australia claims to uphold. So there you have it, a glimpse beneath the surface, beyond the beaches and the sunshine. Australia is a country of contrasts, of immense beauty and deep challenges. It's a nation grappling with its past, striving for a better future. We've explored the struggles, the resilience, the triumphs, and the heartbreaks that make up the Australian story. From the ancient wisdom of the Aboriginal people to the challenges of modern society, we've seen that there's more to this country than meets the eye. It's easy to be seduced by the postcard images, but true understanding comes from confronting the complexities, the good and the bad. This isn't about criticizing Australia, it's about loving it enough to want it to be better. Because at the end of the day, Australia's greatest strength lies in its people, in their resilience, their compassion, and their unwavering belief in a fair go for all. Cheers to that, mates. So, what do you reckon? Eye-opening, right? Australia's a land of contradictions, full of beauty and struggle, just like any other place on Earth. But it's in those contradictions, in those raw and honest moments, that we truly connect, that we find the heart of what it means to be human. Keep asking questions, keep challenging perceptions, and keep the conversation going. Thanks for joining me on this journey, mates. Until next time, take care and stay true.